Hey everybody, welcome on back to Twisted History podcast, and Twisted History is sponsored by BetterHelp. Let's talk numbers. The personal in therapy can cost anywhere from $100 to $250 per session, which adds up fast. But with BetterHelp Online Therapy, you can save, on average, up to $50 per session. With BetterHelp, you pay a flat fee for weekly sessions, saving you big on cost and time. Therapy should be accessible, not like a luxury. With online therapy, you get quality care at a price that makes sense and can help you with anything from anxiety to everyday stress. Your mental health is worth it, and now it's within reach. And we've mentioned this multiple times. Even if you're a parent or someone who's watching this, maybe set it up for the kids. Everyone needs somebody to talk to, and BetterHelp is one of the easiest ways. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served 5 million people globally. It's a big number. It's convenient, too. You can join a session with the click of a button, helping you fit therapy into your busy life. So your well-being is worth it. Visit BetterHelp.com/twisted today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/twisted. All right, welcome on back to Twisted History Podcast. It's myself. It's Sweet Ann, St. Ann.
Hello.
Yeah, sweetest. It's Vibsy. And it's John on the ones and twos. We're a full boat today. And we're going to talk about Twisted History's biggest falls from grace. Last time we were in, we had talked a lot about Gene Hackman. And I think when we got to the end of Gene Hackman talk, we talked about some of the roles that he turned down and some of the other famous roles that other people had turned down. Ranker had put out something where they had actors who had roles that were written for someone totally different. A couple of people had sent it to me. So here they are. Beverly Hills Cop, Eddie Murphy. Iconic role for Eddie Murphy. It was originally written for Sylvester Stallone. That wouldn't have worked.
That would not have worked.
Wouldn't have worked. Joe Pesci and My Cousin Vinny. I think Joe Pesci did a very good job in that movie. It was originally written for Andrew Dice Clay.
That's a comp.
Wesley Snipes, one of my favorite movies, Blade. I watch it every time it's on. That was written for LL Cool J. Audrey Hepburn in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Should have been Marilyn Monroe. That's who it was written for. Oh. That's not too bad, right?
No, that's not bad. So far, the only one I see that's out of ordinary is Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah. Sam Neill in Jurassic Park was written for Harrison Ford.
I could totally see that.
Oh, he could have pulled that off.
He could have pulled it off. Remember The Fifth Element with Chris Tucker when he played he was very good in that.
Plays like the MC or whatever.
Yeah, very flamboyant and stuff in it. That was written for Prince.
Oh, I was
Prince. Oh. And I don't know if it would have. And believe me, I'm a huge Prince fan. I don't think that would have worked.
I feel he's too soft spoken to pull that off. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
kind of like a timid figure.
Whoopi Goldberg. Her greatest thing that she ever did was Sister Act, and it was originally written for Bette Midler. So a lot of people wind up playing roles that were meant for everybody else, and most of them hit it out of the fucking park. But we're on to it. We're on to this latest episode, and we're going to start with terrible news. Go ahead.
I was going to say, did anyone go and watch a Gene Hackman movie? Did you guys have a movie night?
You know what? They wound up popping them on TV all over the place. So I watched the last part of Quick and the Dead again. The other night I was by myself. Yep. I watched Quick and the Dead, and I thoroughly enjoyed Hackman. You know, but I love the movie, and particularly Gene Hackman. I loved Hackman in that movie.
Made you appreciate him a little bit more.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish I didn't see him in those last pictures where they show him. You know, people kind of deserve a little bit of respect if they're trying to stay out of public eye towards the end of their.
That's how I feel with Walken. I don't like when they show pictures of Christopher Walken.
Oh yeah, is he gone? I'm not gone.
He's not gone.
As decrepit.
Yeah, like he's always in a robe and his hair. I mean, his hair is always crazy, but he's my favorite. Yeah. So I don't like seeing people get old. I know it sounds terrible.
Jimmy Carter, too. Jimmy Carter looked like he was like a strong breeze was going to take him out towards the end. And it's kind of, not that I was like, oh, what a big burly man. It's tough to see him like he is now. But it's just, I don't know. It seems almost disrespectful.
His mouth gaping open. And you're just like, come all right.
And the story's getting weirder and weirder with the Hackman stuff.
Yeah, I feel bad for it just because until it's all out, everyone has all this conjecture about it. His wife's phone was, I don't know.
Supposedly the day after she supposedly died, she called her doctor.
From beyond?
Well.
Yeah, you never know.
Crossing over. Michael Jordan? Was it? No. Crossing over, yeah.
Yeah.
Jordan Michaels?
Jordan Michaels.
I don't know.
Yeah. But some guy who didn't look bad at 76 was George Foreman. And George Foreman is dead. We've spoken about George before. Listen, John and I have had the opportunity to meet some absolutely legendary boxers with all the stuff that we've done in boxing here at Barstool. We honestly, like, it's bucket list stuff that I've been able to just kind of I don't know, see sports heroes of mine, because I don't have a lot of sports heroes outside of boxing world. George Foreman, I've always been a fan of. I never met him. And now I never will. But we spoke about him before. We had Jerry Cooney on. Jerry Cooney's one of my favorite people, much less one of my favorite boxers. Yeah. We had him on years ago on Zoom during the pandemic to do Twisted History of the Sweet Science. And Jerry had told us that George Foreman was the hardest he's ever been hit. And this is, it makes sense because Cooney had fought George Foreman in 1990 in Atlantic City. Atlantic City was the home of big-time boxing back in the day. And George knocked him the fuck out. I mean, he knocked Cooney out with one of these walking uppercuts. This big, like, lumbering George Foreman used to do this thing where he walked into uppercuts and it seemed almost like effortless, but with his size of his fists and the amount of muscle he was able to put behind it, it was just like this devastating thing. It was fun to watch. But even then, like, George was 41 years old when he fought Cooney, and Cooney was only 33. But after the Thriller, instead of the Rumble in the Jungle, they needed a tagline for this. So they wound up calling it, because it was fought at Caesar's Palace in Atlantic City, they wound up calling it the Geezers at Caesars.
That's not right.
Even though Cooney was only 33. I mean, 41, you can tell, right? But
41's super old for a boxer, right?
Yeah, but 33, I
31 is...
I find it the inflection point not to be until like 35, 36, 37 before you can really see a boxer in general start to go down. There's a lot of stuff that factors into that. The amount of ring wear they have, what division they fought in, how many headshots they took.
You said you never got to meet George Foreman. Did you ever get to see him live?
No, outside of TV. Obviously, I used to watch him on TV religiously. I've never been to a George Foreman fight. I've never really done it. I own the grill, but that's about as close as I got to meeting Big George. I saw the movie that they did on him last year. They had sent me an advanced copy, and it was okay. I mean, I don't think those movies tend to tell the whole story, but it was just okay. When we did the Olympics episode, which was a very good episode, we had a lot of information in the Olympics episode. We were going bang, bang, bang. But the 1968 Summer Olympics in Mexico City, people remember it for the Black Power salute that was done when Tommy Smith and John Carlos, two black athletes who finished the 200-meter, raised their fists. But that was also the Olympics where George had won a gold medal. He was only 19 at the time. And instead of raising a fist or doing anything to, reflect black struggle or anything like that, he waved an American flag, and people went and lost their fucking minds, particularly in the black community. He was considered Uncle Tom for years.
Right.
And at that young, he's 19 years old. He just won a gold medal in Mexico for his country. He waved a flag, and people shit all over him for it, So the whole Uncle Tom and the alienation for that was real. So those are two things that we've spoke about before with George Foreman. In the wake of his death, I think most people have talked about three things. One, the weird shit with his kids' names, right? Because Foreman's been married 5 times. He had 12 children. And out of those 12 children, he had 5 sons and 7 daughters. And all 5 kids, everyone knows this already, all 5 kids are named George. George Jr., George III, who everyone calls Monk, George IV, who people call Big Wheel, George V, who people call Red, George VI, who people call Little Joey. So that's all his sons. And then his oldest daughter, I believe, is Georgette. It's one way to keep your name out there.
I went to school with a family of Charleses.
Oh, did you?
There was like 7 Charles. Then the oldest was in my grade, so he was Charles, whatever, the first.
Okay.
And all his siblings were Charles the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, and they were not named after the dead.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's weird.
It was fair.
But I mean, so it's one of the things that does come up. On top of it, everyone talks about, what's probably most important about him, and is like the history he achieved inside boxing. At 46 years old, 46, he became the oldest heavyweight champion in history. Vitaly Klitschko, the non-handsome one, is the second oldest. He did it at 42 years old. And everyone else had been 40 or younger, including the reigning WBA, WBC, and WBO champ, the unified undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Alexander Usyk, who is 38. So Usyk is way up there. But George did it at 46, and then he kept that title for 2 years before he retired at 48. But it's that gap for the 46. It's a gap between when he had last won a title and when he had won this title at 46, which is really impressive. It was 20 years. In 1974, Muhammad Ali beat him in Zaire in the Rumble of the Jungle. And then George didn't have a major title then for 20 years after that. And then he wins one against Michael Moore.
And
that's a gap.
Ali was 7 years older.
Yeah.
Everybody was making such a fuss of Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And what he was doing. He was 45 when he retired. George Foreman's 46 and he's winning the heavyweight belt.
And then retires at 48. Yeah. I mean, Michael Moore, the guy that he beat, was considered an undersized heavyweight because he came up from light heavy and cruiser and whatnot. So like an Evander Holyfield or like a Alexander Usyk. But still, Michael Moore had beat Evander Holyfield earlier that year in 1994 when George knocked him out. So, undersized southpaw can be extremely dangerous and didn't matter. Big George just walked right through it and pummeled the fucking guy. He retired in 1997 at the age of 48 with a final record of 76 wins, including 68 knockouts, and 5 losses. You know who his final fight was against? George Foreman? It's a guy that I love. You wouldn't know, I don't know. But John, we've interviewed him multiple times. He's coming here. He's actually a friend of mine. He's one of my, obviously it's not Cooney. You wouldn't know.
Oh, his fist is like this big.
That's the guy. Yeah.
What's
Shannon
up?
Briggs.
What's up,
so
champ?
Shannon the Cannon. What's up, champ?
What a name.
Yeah, Shannon the Cannon Briggs. I've had him in here. He's got those calcified fists. Brooklyn guy. He's doing a lot of good for the kids in Brooklyn. He's starting like some sort of boxing school or something for him. I love Shannon Briggs. But Shannon was only 26 when he fought a 48-year-old George Foreman, beat the brakes off him, and then George retired finally at 48. Vibsy, this guy's fist, George Foreman's fist was supposed to be like a bowling ball. I've told you about Sonny Listens where it says it was like 2 cannonballs hanging from his arms. We were actually talking to Lampley about that the other day. Johnny and I had Jim Lampley in here, and I was floored because I love Jim
you were
Lampley.
impressed by him.
Yeah, and the fact that he was like, you know what you're talking about, he said to me, I got so much blood flow off of that. He has no idea.
6 to midnight.
Yeah. But Shannon, they when you break your bones in your fist, they calcify a little bit. Like my pinkies are jacked. His are like, man, it would feel like you're getting hit by the Thing.
That's what that's
the
from.
Fantastic Four.
Does it have to break?
Yeah, they break and then reset. But
Yeah.
boxers' hands are notoriously sensitive because they spend most of their time with their hands wrapped. So boxers who get into fights outside and who throw real punches are really risking their moneymakers. So a lot of times during, press conferences and stuff, they won't throw punches at the other guy. It's always slaps. You know what I mean? Like you see like the Canelo slap with Kelly Plant and whatnot.
I think a good slap is a little bit more degrading.
It is.
Like,
yes.
I just got slapped.
Yeah. I hate when she does it to me.
Yeah. Out in public.
Yeah. So that's the second thing people mention to him. One is the freakiness with his kid's name. The second is his unbelievable longevity in the boxing world. And the third is the machine, right? It's the George Foreman grill, it's officially the George Foreman lean machine, fat reducing grilling machine. You sold 100 million of those things.
Oh, they were amazing. No one made a better hamburger than Grandma Betty on the George Foreman.
They were awful.
I could eat 1 billion of them.
Those things, I mean, we had
thought
them.
they were terrible?
They just didn't make any sense. Like, they had the hinge tops. So you're supposed to be able to grill from but the way the grease just rolled off.
Have the little capture thing at the bottom. Forget it. It was
If you lost that, it sucked.
The most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life was my freshman year of college. The seniors had a house, and they had a George Foreman that had never been cleaned once in their 4 years there.
Yeah.
The grease trap had never been emptied. It was just full, that little tub thing.
Yeah.
Oh, it was awful. And they still used it, too.
The technology got better, so they did get better. But I mean, you see people just doing shots of that grease, everything that came off. But in Asia, in parts of Asia, it's actually the Jackie Chan machine. So it's co-marketed, the George Foreman Lean Green. It's called the Jackie Chan and George Foreman thing. You know who was offered that machine before George Foreman and said no to it? Fucking Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was supposed to be the Hulk Hogan Lean Green grilling machine, and Hogan said no. Instead, he opted to put his name on a blender that was like a predecessor to that NutriBullet, like the small blenders.
Yep.
Nobody bought them. And then Hulk Hogan had signed on to also do a meatball maker that looked like somebody was grabbing meat and putting it together
Like a
into a ball.
snowball maker?
Yeah. George Foreman made $300 million off of that endorsement, which is way more than he ever made fighting Muhammad Ali collectively, fighting Joe Frazier, fighting Ken Norton, all that stuff. Made $300 million. Fucking Hulk Hogan declared bankruptcy in 2009. Hulk Hogan was on the balls of his ass. If he didn't get that website, Gawker
and Bubba the Love Sponge.
Yes. And so he had the $30 million is what he got, I think, in a settlement from that. And that's a $31 million he had got from that, and gave him a fresh set of downs, as 31 million tends to do. But yeah, Bubba the Love Sponge, the radio guy, right?
Florida radio guy.
And did he bang?
He banged his wife. And then I think Bubba filmed it.
Yeah. Was Bubba a cuck, or did he do that to prove that his wife was sleeping? I kind of remember we talked about it.
I think he was like, yeah, my wife still got it, doesn't she? Like, I think that's what it was. And then he like had the tape in his like desk at work or something like that.
Yeah, it almost seemed like what do they call that?
Extortion?
Yes, thank you.
Blackmail?
It's extorting the hell out of him. $31 million he gets off of that. But passed up $300 million putting his name on a machine that everybody, and again, for people who are younger and don't remember the George Foreman machine, everybody had one.
That was how I knew who George Foreman was. I mean, it was my generation.
Every Christmas tree. I mean, it was whatever. I don't know what the comp is to now. It's probably air fryers. Everybody has a fucking air fryer now. Yep. I have 2 of them. I've used one of them once. And air fryers, I don't know, they don't make a tremendous amount of sense to me, but so I don't fucking use them. Plus, I have a family of 5. It's tough to cook from inside of an air fryer.
How much do you think they go for now, the George Foreman grill?
Well, now they have the stand-up ones that you can use outside. Oh. Like they have the ones that look like...
Oh, yeah. They're pretty cheap, though. Like $112, $80.
They got to be up to $300.
So the George Foreman 2... you can buy on Amazon for the panini press for $17.99.
Wow.
The grill for $51 and the stand-up for $120.
The stand-up's what I was talking about. That's only $120? Wow.
And
it looks like a hibachi, like a stand-up hibachi you would do in outside Shea Stadium.
There's a lot of,
look at
like you said, technology, though. Like the panini presses are basically what that is now.
Yeah.
And they've just gotten better with the griddle.
It's actually kind of cool.
You know?
But the panini presses want you to put 2 pieces of maybe buttered bread in between them. So all that's going to run off is maybe some of the butter and stuff like that. George said...
They were good, though. I used to cook eggs on them.
Did you really?
Yeah, like I had a good one.
See, like that's something I would do.
Oh, the Williams and Sonoma one, which had the different plates.
Got kind of hot anyway, so you could do a few things on it.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Pretty cool.
All right, then it looks like I know it's going to be under the tree for me this year.
My grandpa has one of those stand-up ones.
Oh, how did you know extra large? You got to try this.
I have to.
Come on.
Yeah, I'll cook something on a George
kebab.
Foreman grill.
Did you say a kebab?
Yeah, cook a kebab. I should have did it in memoriam.
$300 million.
Yeah,
yeah.
Dug that thing up and made a burger.
We still can.
Yeah, I still can. So
he's still dead.
He's
going to be dead for a while, right? So this is what they call evergreen in the business, right, John? Yeah, I hear you.
Oh, sometimes I think you hang out with me too much, John.
So the kids' names, his fights, and George Foreman Grill. I'm going to just highlight one last thing, and then we'll get off of George Foreman. But I think maybe not everyone knows this story. I'm sure he doesn't want this story to be overly popular. But it was the night that George Foreman had fought 5 guys in a row. He had lost to Ali, like I had said, in Zaire in 1974. And he was devastated by it. Made a bunch of excuses afterwards that Angelo Dundee had loosened the ropes, because that's when Ali did that rope-a-dope thing, said that his water bottle tasted like medicinal, so he thinks that it was spiked. Like there was a bunch, and all boxers make excuses, but it wasn't a good look. And George Foreman, that handsome, smiley face guy, he wasn't always like that. He wasn't always loved. When he stepped off the plane in Zaire, I think Ali was wearing a kufi and a fucking dashiki or whatever the hell it is. Foreman came out with his 2 German Shepherds, which was eerily similar to like every colonizer who came to Africa, to cut people's hands off in the Congo, all had fucking German Shepherds. So when they were shouting, Ali Pumbaye, Ali Pumbaye. Yeah, like that's what they were saying. Yep. Pumbaye means, I think, means kill him. Like Ali, kill him.
Yeah.
Like that's
hell yeah.
That's not subtle,
I'll get you pumped up.
Yeah. So he loses to Ali in 1974. It's the first loss of his career. Again, he was 40-0 going into that fight, so he already had some great fucking finishes against Ken Norton and Joe Frazier, like guys that you have heard of. Loses to Ali, and then Ali starts slow playing him on getting a rematch that never happened. A lot of people say that Ali ducked him for the rematch. So George was in a bad way, depressed, and he needed something to sort of get that spark back. So he said, you know what? I'll go to this place up in Toronto. this small theater that has 16,000 seats. I'm going to fight 5 guys in one night, one after the other. It's going to be an exhibition. I'm going to fight 5 guys one after the other. Put it on the Wild World of Sports. Howard Cosell was ringside doing the color for it. And then you know who shows up to do color with him? Muhammad Ali. They didn't even sell out that arena. 16,000 seats, $20 a pop. They didn't even sell out that arena. That's going from the Rumble in the Jungle, which people estimate a quarter of the world watch Rumble in the Jungle. It's arguably the most watched sporting event of all time in history. So you talk about Super Bowls and all this stuff. The Rumble in the Jungle was the apex back then, and it still might be considered today. You went from that to not selling out 16,000 seats in Canada somewhere. Cosell is ringside. He brings in these 5 soup cans, one after the other, and it just devolves into madness. At one point, he punched his cousin in the corner, punched his trainers. There was some wrestling on the floor with these guys. And Cosell was never one to hold back, was calling it a circus and a sham. Ali was up like rooting for the other guys, and the whole crowd was kind of behind Ali. They're throwing bottles in and the whole deal at George Foreman. So he thought that this was going to change everything for him. I just beat 5 guys in one night in front of everybody in wide world of sports. Ali's got to give me the rematch, to now being a kind of a laughing stock for doing it. So that was his low point, I think.
Yeah.
That was probably his low point. I'm sure he has personal low points, or he did when he was alive. And that's why we're talking about falls from grace today.
Did he know that Ali was going to be there?
I don't know.
Or is that like a surprise?
I don't know, but like sometimes Ali could be a real scumbag with some of the mental games that he used to play. And I know you're not allowed to talk poorly about Muhammad Ali or Kobe Bryant or any of these dead athletes that people revere. But I had my problems with Kobe Bryant too, particularly when he called out that one girl on his fucking daughter's team.
Yeah,
remember
you were
that?
angry
I
about
don't.
that.
Oh yeah, he did something on social media. This is going on a tangent. And like Kobe Bryant, one of the most popular athletes in the world, sort of saying that one girl didn't hustle. I think it's kind of cool that, that's that Mamba mentality shit. I don't know if that girl had her fucking head in the oven later on that day, because he's Kobe Bryant.
Right.
I get the tough love thing. I get the tough coaching thing. But sort of keep in mind that you have a celebrity that could ruin a fucking person's life to drop the hat even back then.
Yeah. It's also like a 12-year-old girl.
Exactly.
And if it's on social media, that's kind of crazy for a coach to do
to
an athlete.
Yeah.
It's like, keep that in the locker room.
Yeah, and a couple other things in Kobe's past.
That's where I thought you were going.
Yeah, the rape stuff. But George was able to recover from that, and I think he arguably died near the height of his popularity. The movie had come out. Everyone loves George Foreman. I think George Foreman has that Dolly Parton, Snoop Dogg. Who else is universally loved? Fucking
Willie Nelson.
Yeah. Shaq. I think
Shaq's
for the most
fallen.
part. Oh, has he fall off?
Oh, he's about to, yeah.
Is he really?
He's on the TBS or TNT post game, and he knows nothing about basketball.
Oh, really?
He doesn't know anything.
Oh, that sucks.
And half of them don't either.
But like some people walk through this earth and they're just like universally liked, and I think that George Foreman might have been considered one of those things. So it was nice to see that, the peaks and valleys of everything that people go through. It's nice to see that he ended his life somewhere near the peak, or at least I think so.
Yeah.
And Kumbaya is in Lingala, it means kill him.
Oh, it does. Okay, yeah. So Ali, kill him.
Yeah.
A Bantu language of the Congo.
Really?
Yeah, Kumbaya.
I appreciate that. That was a pretty good pull for me, right?
That was great. I thought it was Kumbaya.
Yeah, it was. Yes.
With a B.
I was just going off.
Kumbaya.
Yeah, no, you're right. I was just going off of memory.
Most people actually say Kumbaya.
Kumbaya.
Kumbaya. Yeah, it's the exact opposite.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. So we're going to talk about people who used to be on the top and then absolutely flamed out miserably. And and it's not going to be necessarily somebody where it just kind of aged out. So the guys who, I don't know, developed asbestos, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's just people who have falls from grace. So we'll get into that now. But first, let's hear from Every Plate. Have you been visiting takeout apps more than the gym? There's no judgment here, but Every Plate is one of those things that is affordable for people like us, right? Like Annie and I, when they just kind of send in these raw materials, and you can have one person who doesn't enjoy cooking too much, so who'll follow the recipe, and then another person who doesn't even look at the recipes but sees that they send you quality raw ingredients, and I make whatever the hell I want with it. So it's a win-win for us. And Every Plate can help you dish up better habits with delicious, easy recipes delivered to your door, including Calorie Smart, Carb Smart, protein-smart options. So you can skip the grocery store and enjoy wholesome homemade meals that cost less than your groceries. And everyone's talking about how expensive eggs are and all that kind of stuff. Every Plate is one of the ways to kind of get around on that. So start with 50% off, 50, half 100. Start with 50% off your first box with code HISTORY50, HISTORY50 at everyplate.com/podcast. Everyplate.com/podcast. Every Plate offer valid with auto-renewing subscription. All right, so falls from graces. What jumps to your mind? I think a couple of people probably do. And we're not necessarily going to talk about celebrities right now. We'll save it to the end and decide which celebrities have had fall from graces. And it's not necessarily just celebrities who got fat and look terrible now, but just people who absolutely fucking ruined their lives. Let's start with Napoleon, right? I'm going to start with the historic stuff. Napoleon, let's take a look at him, right? Everyone saw that movie? I hope not, because it was absolutely fucking terrible. But the bottom line of it is that at one point, Napoleon had basically crowned himself Emperor of France. Like there's, the coronation of Napoleon Bonaparte was something that was wild and it was awesome. So he essentially had control of a good chunk of Europe, and he went from that to being exiled onto a tiny island, escaping that exile kind of, being re-exiled onto an even fucking tinier island, dying of stomach cancer, and then having his penis removed for really no reason at all.
None.
During the autopsy, and eventually sold at auction. Like, oh, how the mighty have fallen.
What was that?
Yeah, I'm going to get into that.
Wild.
So not only did Napoleon have a historic...
where it ended up.
Yeah.
Where it is now.
Not only did Napoleon have a historic fall from grace, his penis did as well. He died in 1821. He had his cock removed, and since then, it has passed from several different owners. Most recently, it was purchased by John Latimer. In 1977, and it's still owned by his family, and it's been described as similar to either a piece of leather or a small shriveled eel. That's a shame, man.
Latimer heirloom now.
Yeah, it's a shame. This majestic penis, I'm assuming, which was at one time inside Josephine, inside his other wife, Mary Louise, and inside countless other mistresses, I'm assuming. It's now 200 years later, and it sits on a shelf somewhere in Englewood, New Jersey.
What's in Englewood?
Englewood is a very
big,
nice part of New Jersey.
Is it like is it like a museum, or is it just like,
it's
hey?
probably in an airtight...
No, it's nowhere near a fucking museum. I don't know what the actual thing, you're going to say what it's in, like a Tupperware?
Yeah. I'm guessing that's in an airtight vacuum. Maybe not. Maybe they use it as a paperweight.
Yeah, they could use it as a dog chew. I have no fucking clue.
So this isn't like a Ted Williams type situation where they're like, all right, cut the penis off, we'll preserve it, and we can bring him back.
Absolutely not.
It's like, hey,
that's our second left turn. Who the fuck is John Latimer, and why does he have Napoleon's penis? John Latimer is, well, first of all, he's no longer with us. He died in Teaneck, New Jersey in 2007 at the ripe old age of 92. Rest in peace, John Latimer. But the guy was a fascinating cat before that, right? This is almost like a John Latimer podcast. Right in line. I love this guy.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah. He was a urologist that served during World War II under Patton. Right there, right?
Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
He's looked at Patton's dick, maybe?
Probably.
Probably.
He then went on, you know what? You say that he looked at Patton's dick. One of the things that John, I don't know way too much about this gentleman.
Patton's dick.
I think he had seen, like, right before they went into a battle, Patton, like, jump out of a tank and take a leak. So I think he's seen Patton's dick, even if it wasn't in a clinical type of
medical,
setting.
yeah.
That just jumped into my mind.
He definitely looked.
He's a urologist who served under Patton for a small stint during World War II. He went on to do extensive research on the Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy assassinations, becoming the first medical specialist not affiliated with the United States government to examine the medical evidence related to Kennedy's assassination. He was assigned to the prisoners' barracks at Nuremberg in the spring of 1945, after World War II, where all these historical scumbags like Hermann Göring were housed during their war crimes trial, the Nuremberg trial. So while these guys were on trial, they were kept somewhere, and Latimer was one of the guys that was assigned to those prisoners' barracks. He later retired from the army with the rank of colonel and wrote a book called Hitler's Fatal Sickness, where he theorized that Hitler had Parkinson's, and he had shown like a bunch of of photos where whenever Hitler was in public or speaking to somebody, he always had something in his hand, to sort of like stop. Like I'm not there yet.
Shaking.
But it's to stop the shaking.
Yeah.
Like Bob Dole used to hold the pen. I don't know if that was
Bob Dole,
but he had the.
I think that was
sense of we went through his injury. Bob Dole's a fucking stud.
Really?
Yeah,
everyone always thought he was like boring.
No, Bob Dole's injury. We'll come back to it. Bob Dole's injury is a fucking stud.
I thought it was just to drive home a point, like point the pen and be like,
no, he did that to his hand I believe was atrophy. So they did it to show that it wasn't like that to keep it from curling in. I believe they had him hold a pen.
Right.
Kind of like almost like a fidget spinner instead of like people fidgeting. They use a spinner to keep their hands calm.
Yeah.
I think he did that.
I'd love if there was like photos of Hitler with a fidget spinner, just like
that would be
just
awesome.
like yeah. What
or just a bunch of bubble wrap.
Fidget, yeah.
I would be afraid of what he used as a fidget spinner.
Yeah.
Hitler was kind of.
How many rolls of bubble wrap did you go through? 9. Like, you know what I mean? That's it's a joke.
Wasn't he also just on a bunch of a bunch of uppers?
That's what they said. Meth head.
Yeah, he's like going through withdrawals, probably just like
suffered from severe flash.
Yeah. Let me get back to it, though. Why did John Latimer have a 200-year-old dick?
Let's get to it.
And I think it was simply because he thought it was cool. His 30-room mansion in Englewood, New Jersey, again, which is a beautiful part of town, contained an extensive collection of military paraphernalia, including medieval armor, Revolutionary and Civil War rifles and swords, a pile of cannonballs, World War II machine guns, German Lugers, and some drawings by Adolf Hitler. And Latimer stole personal items from several of the Nuremberg defendants, such as Hermann Göring. And he stole Hermann Göring's underwear and his Luftwaffe ring.
That's ballsy.
That's fucking awesome. Fuck him. Yeah, you know, I mean, we're not against it. I think
about that.
Yeah, stealing from the Nazis is cool.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's dangerous.
That's very fucking
you have to
ballsy.
Have like some kind of like, you have to be a little bit psycho yourself. I mean,
the underwear is weird.
I don't
want to.
Yeah, right.
You never know.
He's kind of a bigger guy, wasn't he? You know.
Yeah.
Some skid marks. I don't know.
And here's where it gets a little more interesting. Latimer was owner of several grisly historical artifacts, including one of the 2 cyanide capsules that Göring had hidden in his room. So I think Göring had some sort of moisturizer, and underneath the moisturizer in a little compartment, he had 2 cyanide capsules. And before they had executed him, that fucking coward took one and killed himself. And Latimer has the other capsule. That's kind of cool.
Was it like
you know what I mean?
Secret compartment under it, like Reacher's shoe.
I don't know. I don't know exactly how they did that. He also owns the collar of the shirt that Lincoln wore at the theater that night, so it's stained with Lincoln's blood.
Yeah,
that's crazy too.
How does he get all these things?
I don't know. And the medically preserved Napoleon penis.
To cut off a collar.
Right.
Who?
Well, I'm sure. So it's sort of like. Remember when we talked about Bonnie and Clyde? When they shot up Bonnie and Clyde's car and how they ripped apart every piece of clothing that they had and sold it off like they do with saints. Like you get a relic, you get Padre Pio's, toe bone, and you keep it next and you pray to it every night, which is fucking crazy too, but it is what it is. So they did that with Bonnie and Clyde. I think they did a lot back then.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I wonder if he took anything, like stole anything from JFK's set. Like he worked with Dr. Bodden. You know who Dr. Bodden is? I love him. But I wonder if they took anything like brain matter. It sounds gross, but this guy's stealing other stuff.
He's got the leather eagle penis. I wouldn't think
do you think he has brain matter from JFK?
Yeah, probably somewhere.
Probably,
some goop in a jar.
Yeah.
A little pee from Patton.
I don't know. And listen, his family's still alive. I should see if they can bring it in. I'd like to see Hitler's penis.
I will get on.
I'm going to reach out. Yeah, can you reach out?
Of course I will.
Thanks. Before we go back, here are some other famous people parts that are still around. Beethoven's ear, actually a couple of bones from his inner ear, I believe it is at the Ira F. Brilliant Center for Beethoven Studies in San Jose State University. Skull fragments from Abe Lincoln are at the National Museum of Health and Medicine in Washington, D.C. Galileo's finger is in the Museum of History and Science in Florence, Italy. Thomas Edison's last breath.
I love that.
Is that fucking crazy?
This is weird, yeah.
Apparently, right before Thomas Edison had died, he breathed into a glass tube. They sealed it, and Thomas Edison's last breath is in a glass tube in Henry Ford Museum in Michigan.
I would love to smell it.
Smell it.
Open it up and
you
just...
want to smell it?
Yeah.
What the fuck it is? And Albert Einstein's brain, to go along with the brain thing you guys are talking about, is in the Mutter Museum. I think it's Mutter.
I wonder what his last
Museum
word
in Philadelphia.
Was to get that breath.
I don't know. Let's get back to historic falls from grace. On 9/11, fittingly, 1970 though, Ford unveiled the Pinto. I don't know if anyone remembers the Pinto other than
Yes, from
Annie.
Cujo. That was the car she got within.
They're remaking Cujo.
Are they?
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. We just saw something about how to make Cujo, they had to have like 57 different dogs, all different types of breeds and shit like that. Like there
movie
wasn't
ruined
one
my childhood.
Cujo,
Yeah.
bunch of animatronics and a bunch of people in dog suits.
I heard something that
I don't mind that remake.
Stephen King was so coked out he didn't remember writing Cujo.
Really?
I didn't know he had a big drug problem.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Half of his books he was just like
Must be when he named his son. I
ripping
mentioned it
lines.
before.
Yeah.
His son's Joe. You must be joking. Yes, I am. So the Pinto came out in 1970, along with names like the Mercury Bobcat and the Chevy Vega and the AMC Gremlin.
Pinto was badass looking too.
Oh, I've never
When they
been
had
in
'em
one.
souped
I
up,
know what a Pinto is.
Yeah. They were meant to rival these affordable little
wagon.
subcompact sedans like the VW Beetle and the Toyota Corolla. So those things had started to gain popularity here in the United States, where we were used to having like American muscle and big cars. So we had to combat that somehow. So we introduced the Pinto, right? So between 1970 and 1980, 10-year span, they made 3 million of them. The only problem was the way that the fuel tank sat in the back. They had a tendency to burst into flames whenever you were rear-ended. And I'm talking fender benders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a minor problem.
Yeah. Approximately 117 lawsuits were brought against Ford in connection with rear-end accidents in the Pinto. So they made 3 million. 1.5 million of them were recalled. There were no more Pintos made after 1980. It just absolutely disappeared. And Ford switched their focus. That's a little bit of a pun because there is a Ford Focus, but to the Ford Escort in 1981. So the Pinto, when it came out, it was gangbusters, and people thought that it was economical and it was going to, trump the Beetle and the Corolla and all that stuff. And it wound up blowing up every time somebody breathed on the back bumper.
You want to see terrifying images? Google Ford Pinto Cujo. Look at, honest to God, the car itself is terrifying. In this
I think redoing Cujo is a good idea.
Yeah.
I think with the way that, like redoing Snow White, and this isn't
Don't
anything
get
more
me
about that.
started.
Who gives a shit about
Next.
it? But I think that they shouldn't have done it. I think these live action remakes of cartoons don't make a lot of sense to me. They're stupid.
Right.
Outside of the Ziegler thing and the dwarf thing, by the way, Za's going to the mattresses for the fact that there's no dwarf actors in this.
Oh, is it CGI?
At first,
I know nothing about the movie except that this girl's an absolute abomination.
Yeah, she doesn't like respect the source material, which is huge if she was in a Star Wars movie, and I think it's equally as huge if you're in a Disney fucking princess movie. But the fact that the 7 dwarves exist in the story, they need to do something about it. So they originally shot it, I think, with 7, average size actors. And perhaps actresses, I don't know.
Like a Hugh
They know
Grant.
it's fiction, right? They know this isn't real.
They switched it
Right.
to CGI, and part of it they said because Peter Dinklage said having, dwarves in that role. Meanwhile, this little
Dwarves in
fucking
that role, what?
asshole, as dwarves in like a fairy tale, it doesn't do well for people's treatments of dwarves outside of the movies. But he made a lot of money being a fucking angry drunk dwarf in Game of Thrones.
Right, or in
Right.
that movie Elf when he was
Yeah.
I don't know. I think people just have to realize they take everything way too
And
serious.
we can't necessarily, our tall privilege maybe stops us from being able to talk about it. But hearing Za say, I know a lot of people who are my size who are actors who'd have loved to have rang a register here.
Right.
And people can set aside what you play in the movies versus whatever. So it was just one of those things. And if you do follow Za, Zvateta Shemedza, the Midget Zimbo is what his handle is. He's one of my favorite people in the world. And it looks like he's ready to go to fucking mattresses about no real dwarves.
Respect it.
Yeah, I respect the shit out of it. So we talked about the Pinto. We are going to talk about some historical figures, but I just wanted to mention Blockbuster because Blockbuster was fucking huge. These young people here don't really know, but video stores, holy cow, they were absolutely
John's
huge.
taking that
John,
for
at
himself.
2004, how old were you?
Yeah.
How old were you 20 years ago?
I owned a laser disc and a DVD player.
Yeah.
I went to Blockbuster when they had how they used to have more for like the new ones, and
Yeah.
then they'd have like one copy
Laser
of like
discs.
Yeah.
I
Uncle
remember
Buck
them.
in the back, and then
Yeah,
you'd have to
Uncle
go
Buck
find
was
that.
the
So
best.
yeah, I know the system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You?
I was 14, brother. I was
Yeah, okay.
Blockbuster Friday night was my childhood.
Big time, right?
That was
and then
that
they
was
had the
everything.
doors.
Still-
Remember they had
so
like
you're
the
still there
doors,
with me.
the vented doors to the naughty section.
Oh, I did not know. When you walked in, we kind of had those or walked out. But
I stole a pack of gum from once.
you're a piece of shit.
Degenerate.
Comfortable saying this on camera? Because
What kind of gum was it? Do you
Yeah,
remember?
yeah, I'm revealing it right now. It was a big red.
Oh, good.
I was going to guess Fruity Stripe.
Oh,
They were the
Juicy fruit, you
worst.
mean, right? Juicy
No, remember Fruity Stripe with
Pretty
the
Stripe lost it. They
zebra
had
on
the
it?
zebra on it. They would take
10 seconds later,
10
lose
seconds.
flavor.
tops.
Yeah.
But a Pizza Hut pizza and Blockbuster on a Friday night. God damn.
Yeah.
That was the
You
life.
kick back with a piece of Gator gum?
And now I don't remember Gator gum.
Gatorade gum?
Oh, it was
You remember it?
disgusting.
Oh no.
Oh, man, Gatorade gum was the shit.
I'm with John with the big red.
Now Friday nights.
The Matrix.
We got nothing.
Office Space.
2004. Blockbuster
Late
had...
fees for months.
We didn't
yeah.
rewind.
God,
We didn't rewind it. We
Oh,
charged.
yeah,
you.
yeah. The VHS are going back.
Please be kind, remind.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, rewinding, when it got to the end, which was actually the beginning of the tape that you're rewinding, the stop was so abrupt because the rewinder was going very fast that they said it was hurting VCRs. So my parents went out and bought a rewinder on top
Yes,
of
we
it.
had those.
So you would take the movie out, rewind it in this fucking
Machine.
machine, this bear, and then it was no
Fast.
matter how abrupt it stopped, your real VCR was kept pristine. A VCR that we never learned how to program to tape stuff while we weren't at home. Never got to that point. Never.
We a big time in the Vibbert household. We recorded Men in Black 2 on the VHS. and
Over.
we went out to dinner, and we got home ready to watch Men in Black, and we recorded it on mute. The whole thing was
No.
mute.
Oh,
What
no.
a shitty time to be alive.
Oh, no.
The VHSs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was at WrestleMania. I bought a disposable camera, and I was up on my I think it was WrestleMania in Atlantic City. So it was might have been 3 when Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant fought.
In Detroit, right?
No,
Or-
Atlantic City. I was,
Well, no. Wasn't that in the Pontiac Center in Detroit?
I don't know. But anyways, I had a crush on Miss Elizabeth. I took 30 pictures of her on this fucking thing, and I
Yeah.
never slid open because you were looking through a viewfinder that had nothing to do with the actual lens. So if you never slid open the actual lens, all we took a picture was the inside of there, and I didn't have a single picture from it.
Yeah.
It was me and my dad. Oh, just me and
Still
my dad.
alive?
My dad
Let's
is
bring her in.
obviously still alive. Not obviously. My dad is still alive. I'm very happy to report that. I don't know if Miss Elizabeth is alive. I think she is.
Isn't that wild?
Are you Googling
I'm
that?
Googling
Okay.
her right
I was
now.
gonna get on
Isn't that wild that that's how we used to take photos? Was you didn't have a phone where you could take whatever
zip,
you
zip.
wanted, and you'd have to just kind of guess and have like a real eye.
Yeah, that's
Be
it.
like, boom, I got it.
Through, and then you had to zip, and then you had to hold down a button
Plastic.
until it started to go, and then the the flash was ready. If you bought the one with the flash,
I
It's like
hate
with
to
cavemen.
report this, but Miss Elizabeth passed away in May of 2003.
Oh wow.
they're old. They're that every
She had
wrestler.
There was a pretty tragic story too.
Yeah.
Between her and Lex Luger.
I was expecting
Big John Studd passed away
recently.
this week.
No, no.
he's been dead for a while.
Yeah.
He's been dead.
Big John Studd passed away this week. Condolences to him and his family, I guess, to his family. But anyway, so Blockbuster was huge. Man, we went on another tangent there, which I think is okay. 9,000 stores in 2004. It employed 85,000 people. It generated $5.9 billion in annual revenue. In 1 year, Blockbuster raked over $800 million in late fees. $800 million they brought in just on people bringing them in
They'll
late.
nickel
like
and
John.
dime you.
Yeah. And in 2000, Blockbuster said no. They passed on buying a company that was a DVD by mail upstart called Netflix. They had the opportunity to buy Netflix for $50 million. That was it. And they said no. And Netflix net cap is now over $415 billion. And what happened to Blockbuster? They filed for bankruptcy in 2010. They delisted on the New York Stock Exchange. I remember that in July of 2010. And by 2014, the last 300 stores were closed, and today only one store exists. And everyone's sort of had seen that documentary on it. It's in Bend, Oregon, and it's just kind of one of those things that is kept open for nostalgia reasons.
Is it? So there were two. I think the one in Alaska maybe closed, and now
I
it's
think
just
the one in
Bend,
Alaska closed.
because
Yeah.
we talked about it on this
Yes.
show. It had the boxers from Cinderella Man,
Yep.
like the underwear used in Cinderella Man. That was like their thing.
Yeah. You know what? They could have had Herman Goring's underwear.
They could have.
You know, I know a guy, you know.
I will say, I think the Blockbuster tangent's fine. Everyone has. If you were in that area, everyone has a story about Blockbuster. It was
I
a
think so.
magical place.
Yeah.
I was even with Blockbuster. Fuck Netflix. I didn't think it was going to pan out. I was like, I don't want to mail and send it in the mail, send a movie through the mail. Fuck that.
And one of the reasons I mentioned it, Fall from Grace, is that I have been short Netflix since the day I saw it. I think that it is the worst investment of. I don't feel this way now, obviously, but I've always been like, and I was dead wrong. I never put on a short position. I never did anything, but I had the opportunity to buy it, just shares. Never did. And it's one of the big ones. Like, I did not believe in Netflix at all, and I was dead wrong. So it is what it is.
You mean like the mail order, or like original?
When it started as the mail
When it came
order
out,
type
yeah.
I
thing.
totally get that. Yeah.
And then when it went to
my
streaming.
dad loved it, and I thought it was clunky. I like didn't care for it. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Even when it went to a streaming service, it was the one that people said they were going to pay $10 a month for, or whatever the hell it was. And I was like, who the fuck's even going to do? So they went from selling DVDs by mail, and now they think people are going to pay $10 on top of paying whatever they're paying for their cable thing.
Yeah.
Like, we went from regular TV with just a couple of channels to going to cable, and I was like, holy shit, I got 120. Why would I need any more channels? Netflix, that's not going to work. I've never believed in them the whole way, and I'm essentially the Blockbuster video. I'm the personification of Blockbuster video. I should move to Bend, Oregon. That's where I'm going to retire.
I think it was just so hard to visualize just because Blockbuster was such a fun. Go to the thing. Look
Yeah.
at all the, you could
Right. It was a place to
physically
go. It was
touch
something to
everything.
do.
Yeah, you're there.
Around that internet time too. I mean, they kind
Yeah.
of just got fucked not thinking about the internet.
But John, like, if you go and Vibs, I know the answer for me and Annie, for Annie and I, and if you tally up all that you're paying for Hulu and Apple and Disney Plus and all that stuff, and it's much more than your fucking cable bill ever was.
Here's what happens to me now. I have essentially cut all of those, right? But now I get resubscribed to them for free trials because you buy other things that give you. Has this happened to you?
Yes. I get offered free trials for stuff I
So I
already
get
have.
like
So I just
3
bet.
months to Disney. I get like 3 months of Paramount Plus,
Right.
and I'm like, all right, and then you're like cancel, and it's like, hey, do you want it for free for 3 more months? And you're like, okay. So
But
that's
do you hate
I'm still
this-
subscribed.
Now it's more expensive than cable, and they've worked in commercials. So
Yes.
unless you pay
Oh,
more
that
money for it, which is
irritates
just
him.
I do try and game the system where I don't pay as much as I should, and if they try and charge me, I'm out.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I
But you
will-
have to stay on top of
a
it.
man of principles. I like it.
I don't do that.
They get me for one $60 month, or I'm like, ah.
I'm gone.
Yeah.
What about your internet bill?
Well, that's solid. That's whatever it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
See, ours, we
60 to 120. What is it?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
It's what do you pay a month?
25 years.
something between 60 and 120.
80,
That's it.
80 a month.
Hey,
We
just
are
for internet?
Definitely doing something wrong.
Just for internet.
I tell you what, feel
I don't
any
even
way
wanna
you
Maybe it's
know.
160.
Yeah, even that's
Mine's
low.
80 a month every month.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I feel like I was in
We
the
are
range.
definitely doing something.
You might have high
pay for
speed.
telephone.
Maybe. I don't know. We have
By the way, we still have a landline. We don't,
don't have
use
a
it.
phone.
We don't have a
That
phone
seems to be a-
connected to it.
Yeah.
Our landline is what we use for all our bonus programs. So if I go to a grocery store number, I give my landline thing. Everything is connected to that. So we don't get any telemarketers from it or anything because we don't actually have a landline in the house. I don't even know if we have a jack for it. Yeah.
a phone.
We don't. We don't have like a phone anymore.
Yeah, I feel like they're all the same. Like 150 for like between 70 and 150 for a phone.
We really have to go through that.
I need, and listen, however you
Figure,
guys
okay.
feel about this Doge thing, I don't care. Honestly, I need Doge to come to my house.
Yeah.
And
That'd
figure out what the like to trim the fat because
Mm-hmm.
I am paying a lot of people twice, and it starts to frustrate me because I don't think this works. Like this, I wanted to watch some show called Dope Thief.
Apple TV.
And it's on Apple TV. And
Oh,
I happen to have Apple TV, so we dialed it up and we watched it.
Same thing.
And I love it. I love the show so far. So it's like where last Ted Lasso's on. Like,
Wasn't it Disney Plus? And we couldn't get the.
no, that was Daredevil.
Oh,
Yeah, so we also started watching the Daredevil thing type. But Dope Thief, I'm highly recommending.
It's good.
And John, just because we happen to have every one of those things, because at some point the kids are like, I want to, do, and so we buy that too. And we have all these fucking subscriptions. So I have the luxury of being able to watch whatever I want, whatever I wanted, as long as I can find out where the hell it is. I don't even know where anything is anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know where. I don't know what I'm watching on Hulu. But I don't know what's on Hulu, but I watch it all the time, I think. So anyway, I never believed in it. Blockbuster didn't believe in it, and they got fucked. They could have bought a $415 billion company now in 2000, so 25 years ago, for $50 million. That would have been a great return on investment.
You know what's also crazy is that I think I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Netflix started to catch Blockbuster even before the streaming platform.
Oh, the mailing thing, I suppose.
Even Netflix didn't bank on the amount of streaming that became like 2008 and on.
Yeah.
Like that was unheard of.
Yeah.
Like 4G and 5G, when they clicked in that internet, and then all of a sudden you could do it on your phone, and Uber was a thing. Like
changed everything.
that was revolutionary.
Yeah.
It was a big jump.
Definitely.
So that's like a bigger chunk of history than you would think. Like I kind of mentioned it nonchalantly, it's almost to poke fun at Blockbuster, but with the changing of the tides, Blockbuster did not pivot well at all. A little bit more history here. So Peter Abelard was one of the brightest minds of the 12th century. We're going way back. If you go to his wiki page, he's listed as a medieval French scholastic philosopher, leading logician, theologian, teacher, musician, composer, and poet. He was a professor at the University of Paris, and he helped found the scholastic movement. That was until he seduced one of his students. Her name was Heloise, and she was either 13 or 14 years old when he was 35. Got her pregnant. Heloise's uncle found out about it, got a couple of his buddies, broke into Peter Abelard's house in the middle of the night, and he cut his balls off.
That's like Anthony Weiner.
Yeah, and then
cutting his balls off.
And then Abelard was then forced
I remember Weiner.
to spend the rest of his life in a monastery. So this guy went from the top of the 12th century, by the way, if you were to tell somebody you were a theologian, teacher, musician, composer, and poet, logician, and philosopher, that gets you laid. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the comp is today. I work in investment banking. Back then, if you were a theologian, blah, 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 you know what I mean? That got you laid. And it got him laid with a 13-year-old girl and he got his balls cut off.
I wonder if it was like the hot professor, and it kind of
Like
the corduroy jacket with the
Like
elbow
Sting,
pads.
Don't stand, what is it?
the 12th century corduroy jacket. Those things were hot back then. Game of Thrones. Everyone likes Game of Thrones, and there's something called Valerian steel. I think Jon Snow's sword is made out of it, right? So it cuts through White Walkers.
Yes, sir.
I bring this guy up only because I think, where does George R.R. Martin grab his ideas from? Out of the air. And this just seems incredibly Game of Thrones-ish. Let's see if you agree. The guy's name was Valerian the Elder. Right away. That looks like somebody, right?
That's straight from Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Valerian the Elder was a Roman noble who became a general. He marched on Rome, was declared emperor from 253 to 260, the Emperor of Rome. Now, we all know the Emperor of Rome was the big shit back then, right? Mm-hmm. The Emperor of China was this huge, like, there are certain things where you're undeniably, heavyweight champion of the world is sitting on top of the world, right? There's certain things. Emperor of Rome, you're sitting on top of the world in a historic manner. He was captured by the Persians in a battle, and he wound up being used by the Persian emperor just to, like, absolutely, I don't know,
stick it to the man.
Humiliate him. He used to use him as a footrest. So whenever this guy had to climb onto his horse, this Emperor of Rome, Valerian the Elder, would have to get down on all fours so this Persian guy could step on his back to get on his horse. So he went from being a Nero, Caesar type guy to being a fucking Ottoman for a Persian. Hey, that's funny. I'm an Ottoman for a Persian. Like, you know what I mean? Like in the 300, when Xerxes is walking down off that sled, all of a sudden those guys like become his steps, and that's what I envision this for.
Yeah,
That's very Game of Thrones.
Absolutely.
So.
His name is Valerian the Elder, and then they had tried to bribe him or something, and he accepted it. So the way he died is whatever they bribed him with, they took that amount of gold, they melted it down into molten gold, and poured it down his throat. That's also fucking Game of Thrones.
It's like the first episode.
Yeah. Then they
put it on his head, right?
Then they flayed all his skin, sewed it back together, stuffed it with straw, and they had like a doll of him, the Valerian the Elder doll, kind of floating around for a little while. It's a sick game of, and obviously that's a fall from grace. I went from being the Emperor of Rome.
Wasn't that His brother that had the molten gold?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it went from being the Emperor of Rome, and obviously there are different stories about how exactly he died. So there's the flaying of the skin, the pouring of the molten gold. But either way, that's a Game of Thrones-ish fall from grace, as far as I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Valerian the Older. We've talked about Nixon multiple times, but if you were to Google historic falls from graces, inevitably you're going to see Nixon. So I won't go into Nixon's life again, even though I'd love to, because I like talking about Richard Nixon for some reason. He's one of our things in the dozen.
Tricky
or used
Dick.
to be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, you like the new niche for the dozen?
I love it.
I think it's good.
I love it.
Jeff and I are on a dozen team this year with Big Ev.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Jake Marsh is in prison. I didn't
Yeah.
know. But anyway, Jake Marsh is doing his sports broadcasting thing. So Big Ev came in, and everyone has their own niche categories. I switch mine all the time. I started with sandwiches. I've done all these different
ran
things.
through sandwiches and there were none.
Yeah, and then I did like Joe Louis for a while. I did Nixon. We did 90s, 80s, like all this kind of stuff. And now I told Jeff, can you just show me like some movie food? Like a close-up of it.
Movie food.
I'll guess what movie it's from.
Oh, like a dinner plate from a movie?
Yeah. And then when he pulls back, it's got to be a little bit more of an iconic type meal. So in this one, it's me and Vibsy and Big Ev. And Big Ev doesn't know a lot about movies. I don't think that's his thing because he watches so much sports.
Right.
They put up this plate. And it's sort of like one of those pewter plates that you would get at medieval times. It had like part of a roast chicken on it, but you could see like a grubby little almost regal hand, and you saw like ripe cherry tomatoes.
Oh.
And it was
Wait. No, go on.
It was undoubtedly the meal that Boromir's dad was eating
Oh,
while
with the
Pippin was
greasy
singing
mouth
to
and all
him.
that?
Yeah.
Yuck, ew.
And so I say, "Oh, Lord of the Rings." Before I say final answer, Jeff goes, "Which one?" I said, "Holy shit,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
right. It's
Yeah,
Return of the
there's
King."
three.
You're like, "No." Jeff goes, "But the last one, right?" Because I almost said Fellowship.
No. Two,
Yeah, it was the last one. It was
was the
Return of
last
the
one?
King. Yeah.
It's when whoever goes into battle and dies right before they go in to die, and he's like just sitting there.
Yeah, Boromir and Faramir. So yeah, his son.
Faramir dies,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and so
No,
Boromir was
Boromir
his other
died.
son who died in Fellowship.
Yeah,
Well, let's not go down a Tolkien fucking
I don't know
hole
the-
because I'm starting to get a nerd
when
boner.
He sees he like lit his son on fire. He ends up getting lit on fire himself and runs and
And then
jumps
running
off
off.
the
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So anyway, Nixon, if you're going to talk about falls from grace, well, no, he was a piece of shit large. I don't know. He's not. Like the whole idea, I realized that he was disgraced and he should be, ridiculed and all that stuff. But Nixon in his first term, like people don't say, I don't remember Nixon because he had opened up diplomatic relations with China. I don't remember Nixon because he had signed some landmark environmental legislation, but he did do that. He did so well in his first term. His second term against George McGovern was who he went against in the 1972 election. He beat him by a fucking landslide. Richard Nixon won 49 of 50 states. He was the first Republican to ever carry the whole fucking South. So this was like a big number, an embarrassing win, like for an embarrassing loss to the Democrats and a huge win for the Republicans with Richard Nixon. And that's, the fall from grace that obviously happened with all the Watergate type stuff. But just
didn't
know.
they call it the Southern Strategy, his political map, right?
Yeah.
Of the Electoral College.
But whenever you
Path
look
to
at
victory.
a election result map, you know it's when you're looking at Richard Nixon's, because I can't remember what the state is that, because McGovern was like,
Minnesota.
McGovern I think was like one of the Dakotas, wasn't he?
Or wait, you're right, because he lost.
I thought he lost
He
his
lost his
hometown.
home
Yeah,
state.
his
which
home
was
state.
his state.
Yeah.
Wasn't he California?
He might have picked up something in the Northeast. I think he grabbed like one state in the Northeast, but otherwise
Vermont or something.
he basically got swept. So Richard Nixon, and by the way, he was in the House of Representatives, he was in Congress, he was a vice president, he was, a two-term elected, president. I know he had lost to Kennedy, so there's stuff that you remember of Nixon about him being a loser. And some people have accounts from being an okay guy, particularly to children. Like he was running a stamp club, right? Like that
He
whole
was the
thing.
president of my stamp club.
He was the president of Annie's
I
Stamp
played
Club.
chopsticks with him on the piano.
No doubt that this guy had said some really fucking bad stuff.
Yeah.
No doubt that this guy in some aspects was a, historical scumbag. But
Looking to see what's
Richard Nixon he did it. Like he didn't lose an election since his
he
fucking
lost Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. He never lost an election before he lost to Kennedy
And-
since high school. Like when he ran for like student body president, he won everything he fucking ran for until he ran into Kennedy, who was just handsome.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And then
He said the only difference between him and LBJ was that he wouldn't kill for the position
okay.
to be president.
There's another dude. His name was I think it's Puyi. 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 Pu. How would you pronounce Chinese? I'll say Puyi.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the dude. If you look at this guy, he kind of looks like a nerd, right? This dude was the last emperor of China.
Yeah.
Oh.
He was the last official emperor of China.
He went under the name Kang Dick. Kang D?
King Dick.
Yeah, King
K-A-N-G.
Dick.
Good old King Dick. Yeah.
He was an absolute monarch ruling 420 million people. I think China has over 1 billion people now. But back in 1908, they had 420 million people. He was 2 years old, and he became the emperor of China.
And he never had any children.
Yeah. He was deposed for the first time in 1912, eventually ended up a prisoner of the communists. But when he was released from prison in 1959, he spent the last decade of his life working as a gardener. That's a fall from grace because he was the fucking emperor of China. Like, the emperor of China is like, do you want your royal balls washed? It's like that coming to America type stuff. So much so that when he became a gardener, people would often, he never flushed toilets because he always had someone who flushed toilets for him. So he couldn't like even assimilate. He used to slap guards, communist guards, when he was under communist prison because they wouldn't like bring him his dinner correctly. These people were raised to never do anything for themselves, much like the royal family, right?
That's why he couldn't have children.
Yeah. So, and this guy, so as far as fall from graces, I wanted to throw a Chinese guy in there too. Pooey. Fucking Pooey. Biblically, what's the biggest fall from grace? Probably Judas.
Oh, I was gonna say Lucifer, the devil.
Lucifer, the devil. Fall. That's also a good one.
But I don't know if that's
a true
human.
Vibsy answer,
Yeah.
by the way.
That is.
That is such a Vibsy answer.
Love me some the devil.
Tough.
Devil, drugs, and rock and roll,
Can't
baby.
even say Jesus of Nazareth
He rose.
himself.
Yeah. No, he rose. Rose
What?
from the dead.
He
How's
rose
that
from
a
the
fall
dead.
from grace?
Well, depending on your.
Oh yeah. So even staying away from.
I meant like the guy. You could say regardless, because he was the mortal man was killed.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Allegedly.
His fall from grace. The mortal man.
Yeah. But I mean, like
the actual guy.
But the whole idea is I can get in an argument about the raising from the dead. I can get into an argument about Lucifer and what the real, because we don't know, right? Like the whole deal. But biblical scholars will tell you that this guy, Jesus Christ, who existed, had 12 apostles, just 12. And these guys were kind of the shit, right? They weren't necessarily like emperors who were getting blowjobs everywhere they went, but they were one of 12 who were, best buds with the Son of God. And only one of those guys, Judas Iscariot, is the dude who turned tables and for 30 pieces of silver, he gave up Jesus and Jesus wound up, dying. So traditionally, I think traitor in a biblical sense, everyone talks about Judas.
For sure.
There's even a brand of farmers.
Wait, well, also, I'm sorry. Oh,
Go ahead.
I was thinking of A2 Judas, but it's Brutus.
That's who Brutus. Yeah.
I was like,
Julius
what a
Caesar.
coincidence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Farmers train.
That was wild to watch, by the way, because I kind of saw that.
Oh my
happening.
God!
Saw the
no
wheels
one's ever
turning.
seen
Start
this.
moving, yeah. Farmers train certain goats to become Judas goats, and they're trained to associate with sheep and cattle and lead them to slaughter while their own lives are spared. And those are called like Judas goats. That's just the way it is. He's synonymous with being a traitor. But if you look at American history, the one man who's synonymous with being a traitor is by far Benedict Arnold, right? Like,
I mean, it was such an insult when we were kids to call somebody.
yeah. Oh, you're a Benedict.
that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. You're an
Burn
Indian
if you
giver. Oh yeah. You're a fucking Benedict Arnold. Like it was a bad thing.
Right?
I got to be honest.
You haven't thought of that in 35 years.
I don't really know who Benedict Arnold was. I just didn't know. I just didn't really look into it. I always just took for granted that he was a traitor. That's it. I did a small dive and I found out about him, but
He was a damn hero.
he was a fucking stud.
Yeah.
For a while. I mean, he was.
I think Ethan Allen was just like a furniture store.
No, yeah. Fucking John, didn't you just say that Brutus was Judas?
Yeah.
Are you coming at
Yeah.
me for my lack of knowledge of Benedict Arnold, jerk? So he was a Connecticut native. He rose to prominence during the Revolutionary War, a military commander, and to Vibs' point, he was a hero. He played a key role in the capture of Fort Ticonderoga and the Battle of Saratoga, earning the respect of many, including some guy named General George Washington, who at one point made him military governor of that shithole Philly where John lives, and eventually gave him a post running West Point. Apologies to the people of Philly. I'm just going after John.
Trump
Yeah.
better make Philly the new capital. I feel like it's coming.
Yeah. So this guy, I mean, he was wounded in the Battle of Saratoga, whereas he got shot in the leg.
Yep.
His horse got shot in the heart. So his horse keeled over onto him. The horse wound up rolling in one direction off of him, One Direction, great band. If the horse would have rolled over the other way and killed him right there, Benedict Arnold would be known as an American war hero,
right?
And every fucking school would be named after him.
It's so true.
If they did that, that's what I'm talking about. Fall from grace. Guy was a fucking stud. I gotta be honest. If Hitler died in 1938, Hitler would be a fucking. He'd be. It would have. Listen, it would. A lot would have been.
You're
different.
doing him a huge favor, by the way.
If Nixon was assassinated the day after he won this re-election, it would have gone a lot differently in the history books. But right? Like, you know, I know it can be said about everybody, but that's the whole point. Like, these guys get to the point where they don't ever envision themselves being step stools for a fucking Persian.
That's wild.
You know what I mean?
That's such a wild
Die a
story.
hero, live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah.
Batman.
Yeah.
But yeah, they would have made a statue for Benedict Arnold instead.
Would have been all over the place. He would have been on money.
At
Benedict
Saratoga.
would have been a huge name.
At Saratoga in Philly. Well, Philly was afterwards.
At Saratoga, there's a statue for him, but it's just for his leg.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because they're like, this fucking traitor, this Benedict Arnold.
They wanted to amputate the leg.
So but
they didn't. So the way that they repaired it had caused so much damage. This one leg was 2 inches shorter than the other, which is crazy.
That's going to lead to problems.
And always in pain. I have one leg that's slightly shorter than the other from when I broke my leg my freshman year. Mm-hmm. And my hips are always thrown off and it causes a certain degree of pain. This guy was like in tremendous pain all the time.
Yeah.
But he was a war hero. And then Washington said once they that's for his leg? Mm. That's fascinating.
Because they're like, we're not going to honor this guy, but we'll honor your leg.
Throw his leg out there. Yeah.
His leg.
He ran Philly. He ran West Point, but he started to become disillusioned with with just being passed over. He was in pain. He didn't like the way that things were going. And he later on had said that he didn't want the United States to split totally from England. He wanted to demand certain things from England and stay under English rule because he didn't think we could survive as a country on our own. So he kind of backtracked on that a little bit.
See us now.
Yeah. So, and then in 1780, he began communicating with the Brits, Sir Henry Clinton, plotting to surrender the fort at West Point to the Brits. Imagine that. Like, that's what hurts too. Mm-hmm. He gave up West Point.
Exactly.
He had this guy, I think it was Major John Andre. He was a British soldier. He met him in the dead of night and like gave him a bunch of letters and how he could get into West Point, essentially take it over with little to no defense. That guy John Andre was then caught and revealed that he was a British soldier. They took off his shoe, and inside were 6 letters from Benedict Arnold. So Benedict Arnold fucking got the hell out of Dodge and went to England. Mm-hmm. So he went from being absolutely... And meanwhile, Andre was executed. George Washington wanted to execute him by firing squad, but they said, no, he's considered a spy or traitor or something. We have to hang him. So Andre was hanged. Benedict Arnold got off scot-free. Arnold then went on serving the British Army.
Yeah.
And he burned New London, Connecticut. He wound up being part of the, that.
I didn't know that.
Whatever. Yeah. He died in London in 1801, leaving behind a legacy as one of America's most notorious traitors. And you know what he died of? Something that I have. He had gout. And it was complications from gout. So he had he had one leg that was 2 inches shorter than the other, and it was always in pain. Mm-hmm. His good leg is where he had gout. So he was basically unable to walk for the end of his life. And this guy is going from a fucking stud war hero who George Washington essentially gave West Point and Philly to at one point to being an absolute traitor who died in England of gout. And Benjamin Franklin wrote, this is where I come full circle on that Bible talk before, Judas Iscariot sold out only one man. Arnold sold out millions. Oof. That's cool. Benjamin Franklin had a way of words.
Burns.
Do you know why they named Eggs Benedict after Benedict Arnold? They didn't. Eggs Benedict is named after Lemuel Benedict, a retired stockbroker who claimed to have ordered the dish at the Waldorf Astoria in 1894. That was a trick question.
Lemuel.
You don't see a lot of that anymore. Yeah. Is that what the guy from fucking Motorhead's real name is?
Oh, Lemmy.
Maybe. Lemmy Klimster?
Yeah.
Because Samuel, you call him Sammy. Lemuel, you call him...
There's Lemuel.
Yeah. He's a good-looking man, isn't he?
That is.
All right. We're going to do maybe one more. Can we do? Yeah. So this one's a little bit long, but it's a name that has been bandied about history classes and whatnot. I don't know if anyone remembers or really knows who he is.
They bring him up all the time. Our kids just
Robespierre.
Yes, they do. They still bring him up in history classes.
Robespierre.
That rings a bell.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Like people may have had an interest in Robespierre be reignited because of the Napoleon movie. That's what shit like that is good for.
I think it was Bridge, but one of our kids just had it was reading about him.
I think he has a very special fall from grace, particularly at the end. So I'm going to mention it now. Robespierre. He's an answer on Jeopardy all the time. His real name is Maximilien Francois Marie Isidore de Robespierre. He lived from 1755 to 1794. If anyone ever asks when a historical figure from France died in trivia, just yell out 1794, because 1794 is a big year for death in France in and around the 1790s, right? It's the Reign of Terror.
Is that
Yeah. So it's during that's when the guillotine was white hot. It was going through necks like you couldn't fucking believe it. So anyway, and think about that. So 1794 in France, 1794. 1776 was less than 20 years before that. Yes. And that's when we had our independence from Great Britain.
Damn right.
That independence would have never have happened without help from the French. As much as we say, even recently, the French can't take fucking the Statue of Liberty back. As a matter of fact, they'd be speaking German without us.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for the French, we'd all be speaking English.
The King's English or the Queen's, whatever it is. Yep.
Instead of this broken fucking English that we like here.
Good day, isn't it?
But that helping of the United States cost them a lot of money. All the other stuff that they were battling on their own borders, because they were always at odds with England and they always had something going on was costing a lot of money. It kind of has a lot of parallels to people being mad about us sending money to Ukraine, right? When there's so much stuff we need to do in the United States. So if you can think about, I'm trying to give you an idea of what the thought process was around after 1776 in France. It's kind of similar to that. I just thought about that now as far as it being a parallel. But something had to change. And that something became the French Revolution. So, that's a little bit of a background into what France was like in 1790s. Robespierre was, at that time, a French lawyer and statesman. He was widely recognized as one of the most influential and controversial figures of the French Revolution. He started basically as like a human rights lawyer. He was a member of the Estates Generale, the Constituent Assembly, and later the Jacobin Club. Robespierre campaigned for universal manhood suffrage, the right to vote for people of color, Jews, domestic staff, and the abolition of the French involvement in the Atlantic slave trade. Those are all good things. Female suffrage would come later on, so we can't have everything, but allowing people of color, allowing Jews, allowing all to vote, and then trying to do away with... There was no slaves in France per se, but France had owned so many islands and still do. Like there's still all these French islands that we go and we pay a lot of money to vacation at, and they were part of the slave trade. Mm-hmm. So indirectly, they were involved with slavery. So this guy had set to take good.
Haiti?
Haiti's one.
Is that one of them?
Yeah, you go to like, all of a sudden you go to some place and it's like, we only speak Portuguese. Like all this kind of stuff. Or you can go to an island, it's like if you speak French, you're in there like swimwear.
Yeah.
So they had all these different territories around that were stops on the African slave trade thing or were places that held slaves. So they wanted to do away with that. He was a good guy. He was a very good guy. On top of that, he was known as the Incorruptible.
I don't see Haiti on there.
Yeah.
Damn.
He was also called the Virtuous. And as a guy who fought for rights for the common man, he was also a man who had no bad habits or vices. So he looked to abolish all forms of prostitution and pornography. Boo. But it's like, that's a virtuous, good thing to do, right? But the Jacobin Club moved further and further towards the radical left in France, not necessarily apples to apples, what we consider left and right here in the United States. And it became a club promoting the ideas of planting seeds of the French Revolution, which started with the storming of the Bastille and the eventual execution of Louis XVI and his wife, Marie Antoinette. And I believe it was Robespierre, actually. Robespierre said, Louis must die so the country must live. And this was all at the beginning of the Reign of Terror, which lasted under 2 years. But in that short time, Robespierre had many more than just Louis killed. 16,594 official death sentences had been dispensed throughout France. Again, guillotine was white hot back then.
It's like an NBA stadium.
16,000 people lined up to fucking have their heads chopped off, essentially, right? An additional 10 to 12,000 people had been executed without trial, and then another 10,000 had died in prison. So the incorruptible became corrupted by his increasing radicalism and authoritarianism. I had a problem with that. So I'm going to oversimplify, but this Reign of Terror under Robespierre watch had a death toll of around 40,000 French people. And in the beginning of this fall from grace story, Robespierre turned from the guy fighting for the rights of men to the man who sent tens of thousands of men to their deaths during the Reign of Terror. That's huge. And that's not the end of the fall from grace, because that was just, a change. He became a unbelievably good guy to an unbelievably murderous scumbag. And the fall from grace story happens. So his story ends on the same day the Reign of Terror ended, July 28th, 1794. This was the beginning of something called the Thermidorian reaction, which in retrospect did not cure all the evils of the Reign of Terror, but it did get Robespierre out of his position of power and onto the guillotine. But before he was executed, Robespierre tried to kill himself. All depends on which account you believe, but he grabbed a gun and went to shoot himself in the head. Instead, he blew off most of his jaw. So his jaw was hanging off, and the French just put a bandage around it, kept him in cuffs, and left him in the cell overnight because they were going to chop his head off in the morning. So he's in there all night with this half a jaw hanging off. He gets led to the guillotine, and right before they put him on the guillotine, they decide that they're going to actually put him in face up. Everyone who's ever watched somebody die on the guillotine, you've never seen somebody lay on their back for it, have you?
No.
Never. You go face first, looking at the basket, not knowing what's about to hit you. This fucking guy, and we're talking about falls from graces here. This guy, top of the world, became a scumbag, tried to blow his own face off, couldn't, so they ripped the bandage off. He's screaming. His jaw's fucking hanging off. They lay him on his back, and they cut his... The only thing that stopped his screaming was the blade of the guillotine cutting through his throat. And that's at the exact same place that he had Louis XVI fucking beheaded a couple of years prior.
It's gruesome.
So, yeah, I think if you're going to look at falls from graces, a lot of them end with you being face up in a guillotine with your jaw hanging off. But that's all we're going to talk about from a historical perspective. I thought it would be fun if we went around the room. I guess we can do a snake draft if everyone thinks that they have three of them, to see what, like, fall from graces that people would see in modern celebrity. So, degree of athletes and all that stuff. And it doesn't even have to be modern. It can be anything. So I think it's an okay idea. Johnny, do you want to throw a couple in there too?
I think we have Vibs. You want to lead us?
Yeah.
Oh, I say we go Annie first.
All right, so we'll go
first.
Annie, Vibs,
Okay.
Johnny,
Yeah.
me. Is that cool?
Yep.
And then we snake it back. And we'll each do three. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Annie, do you have any prepared?
I have one prepared, but I'm good. The first one I'm taking for the snake drift is Charlie Sheen.
Okay, cool.
Woo.
Okay.
Tiger's blood winning.
Yeah, I just feel like that guy could have had, he was so cute when he was younger, and he had everything. Like, he had everything going for him. And then, unfortunately, drugs got involved and stuff like that. But I do think that it was, a lot of it had to come from him, who he was. So I'm going with him first, Charlie Sheen.
Can I ask you a question?
Please do.
Do you think Charlie Sheen would have been available later on in the draft? Because there are some fucking bangers. As soon as you said Charlie Sheen, Jeff was like, yes.
Yep.
Right?
I thought she was going to take a different actor.
Okay. I can guarantee I know who his first one is. I like Charlie Sheen. I like the pick. And he's like, a shell of a guy and all that stuff. But who are you going to pick right now?
America's Dad.
Bill Cosby.
Bill Cosby.
Bill
Isn't
Cosby.
that-
I figured,
Right?
I kind of knew you took him.
No, there's no way I have.
I wasn't going to take.
There's
George
no way I
Clooney.
have Bill
know.
Cosby on my board because I think that when you look at certain
really? I could have
guys.
sworn you said you were taking him.
No, I think
That's
that
odd,
for
though.
certain guys, I think that he's the dude. Like I think
Yeah,
he's
he's
the
a
most
shit, is
recognized.
what
If we
he
could
is.
go around this office and ask
You
and
should die
explain to people
hollering
what
that
we're
guy.
looking for, I think Cosby would be number one with a fucking
big
bullet.
time.
It's Cosby. There's and someone. Yeah, I don't want to go through all the name, but yeah, I think Cosby or
Yeah.
Weinstein would be the next one.
Yeah, I think, but I think like Weinstein, from a celebrity perspective, doesn't have the juice Cosby has.
100%, because no one really knew who he was until he.
People knew who he was, but it's like he was not revered. If anything, people thought he was a scumbag for years.
Yeah.
And he looked it.
Yeah, but it still
Well,
counts because if you last that long without people really knowing.
Exactly.
Right.
And
I
I
mean-
chose Charlie Sheen because he was like,
I love it. I love the pick.
girls my age were like infatuated with him when he came out in that movie Lucas, and now we know that he was just like supposedly, it's not allegedly, raping Corey Haim behind cars during the movie, or that's what I've heard rumor. But like growing up, we all loved him. And so he was my number one.
Yeah, but Bill Cosby was America's dad. He was worth $450 million.
Oh my God.
Emmys, Golden Globes, Presidential Medal of Freedom. He was on Kids Say the Darndest Things. He was so powerful that he literally talked about drugging girls like on like late night interviews.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, no one's going to fucking touch me.
How cool is that? I'm just kidding. Like it's absolutely. It was shocking to see that guy go down for me. I mean, I know. Again, we'll go back because everything goes back to the dozen. I think it's Brandon Walker's niche category.
The Cosby Show, yeah.
And Brandon Walker is a sports fanatic, and his niche category. Like people grew up. Brandon Walker grew up with a black father, Bill Cosby.
Yep.
And now the guy is a fucking allegedly a blind serial rapist.
Yeah.
John, who you got?
Some big hitters. So let's go Joe Paterno.
Oh, that's a
fine.
good one.
That was the one. And listen, we had spoke about Joe Paterno countless times. A bunch of people had reached out to me because there are a bunch of guys who think that Joe got a raw deal. Whether or not you think he got a raw deal or anything, that's a fall from fucking grace that ended with him dying.
You know what just popped into my head?
Don't take another one of mine.
No. It's like Dante. Like when you see someone else's hand in the cookie jar and you say, what the fuck? Like that's what people think. It's like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
They Saddam Husseined his statue. They took it down. They tore it down. And then
I'm going to go with my first one. I'm going to say O.J. Simpson. Just because when that shit was going down, I was, quote unquote, fascinated. I was stuck to the TV.
Incredible.
And listen, I mentioned...
Joe Paterno did sort of get a raw deal in a sense that it happened in Michigan State like years later with Nasser, but like...
No, people think that he's totally... I'm not saying he got a raw deal. I think that if he held in that information or he didn't use his power to make sure that it came out, then I hope he's sucking dicks in hell. I'm saying if for these people who think that he was... railroaded or something like that, even if you want to agree with them, you still have to agree that this is a historic fall from grace that was extremely public, and particularly with the Barstool crowd, right? Sports fans and stuff like that.
There was nobody like him in college football, in college.
No.
Like in universities.
Yeah, I mean, even older coaches didn't have that, almost
maybe
saintly
Bear
way
Bryant,
about him. Yeah.
But
Probably Lou Holtz. Nah, I'm just kidding. That's a little biased.
No.
But I'm saying O.J. Simpson.
Yep.
And one of the things that I started this show is I was talking about, who roles were written for versus who had acted in them. I believe Terminator is written for O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson was an okay actor, but he had a really self-deprecating sense of humor, pretty good comedic timing. I mean, he had the opportunity outside of being on sidelines once he had left football, being on sidelines and doing that type of stuff, to acting in movies that were a lot bigger than Naked Gun.
Yeah.
In which he was awesome as Nordberg in Naked Gun. And all that came to a screeching halt when he chopped his wife's fucking head off, allegedly. You know what I mean? Hit her so hard with this thing that it had lodged in her spine.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Which you need a pretty strong guy, sort of like the Juice, to do such a thing. And seeing all that stuff that had happened beforehand and him never standing up and saying that I'm innocent, and then the glove, it was fascinating to me. And I don't know. It's one of those things that's the most vivid fall from grace from not my childhood, my young adulthood.
OJ Made in America is one of the best documentaries.
And I've never seen it.
Oh, it's so good.
It's really good.
I've seen it.
And
because
the FX show is good.
It was solid. I watched that right after I watched
both-
OJ Made in America. I
they're
couldn't
both
get
good.
enough of the OJ stuff.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Do you know what OJ Simpson's first ever movie role was?
Airplane?
The Poseidon Adventure or something
No.
like that?
That's a good one.
No.
No, that's not it.
No.
What was it?
Towering Inferno.
Towering Inferno.
Oh,
Fuck,
I
that's
He
didn't
plays
it.
a
That?
security guard
I
who
didn't know
goes in and gets a cat out.
Disaster movies like the Poseidon Adventure and Towering
Yep.
Inferno and Earthquake and all that stuff were so hot back then too. So that was a big thing to have. Snake
Gene
Draft, does that mean I
Hackman's
go twice?
adventure.
I go twice right now, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
you do.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
going to put
yes.
up there too as a guy that went from 100 to 0 in a second was Jared Fogle. Vibsy had him on his list because Indiana native. He is a stain
Yes,
on the history
he
of
is.
Indiana.
Scumbag.
Yeah.
I like this one too because he had to be caught,
Yeah,
right? So it's like a fall from
Yes,
Yeah.
a position that
absolutely.
he would have wanted to keep.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, so it's one of those things. So yeah, fuck that guy. And these are guys that I don't mind having falls from grace.
Yeah.
I'm having a tough time pluralizing fall of grace. All right, so that's
He was making $5,000, $10,000 for a speech for going to just like
Yeah.
random offices and talking to him.
right.
He would walk around the Indianapolis Canal wearing his Subway shirt, so everyone would be like, "Oh, look, that's Jared Fogle,"
Jared.
which is like Peyton Manning going out in public wearing his jersey. It's kind of
Huge
fucked up.
fucking
What a
Indiana
scumbag. He was in the movie Jack and Jill, Sharknado 2, Sharknado 3, and then he got caught.
That's right. He was in Jack and Jill. That's the Adam Sandler movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was
Where were you?
WWE appearances, and then South Park gave him a whole episode back in like 2002.
Crazy. Yeah.
Jared Fogle has AIDS, is what it was called. Which he was not too happy about that, but they kind of nailed it.
So mine are OJ and Jared Fogle, and a snake. We go right back to John. John, who do you got?
I'm gonna go Phil Spector, actually.
Yeah, Phil Spector's a good one.
That is a good one.
Wall of Noise. Nobody did it before him, and nobody
Yeah.
did as
Wall
good as
Sound.
him. Yeah, Wall of Sound. I'm sorry, and then it all came to a fucking crashing halt, unfortunately.
Murder.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah.
And terrible haircut. Phil Spector, especially for music fans, that resonates.
But I'm leaving a big one on the board there.
Even a big one. What do you got, Vibsy?
All right. I'm going next. I'm going with Lance Armstrong.
Wow.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Name a cyclist not named Lance Armstrong.
I can't.
You can't.
You can't.
Yeah, 7 consecutive Tour de France's after coming back from testicular cancer. Raised $500 million with the Livestrong bracelets.
Yeah.
Insane. If you did,
A very good doc. That I thought that was an
Yeah.
interesting doc.
ooh, I haven't seen that one.
I think it came out in 2020, but it was like, or 2021.
I remember coming out, but
It was like his version of The Last Dance.
yeah. But if you didn't have a Livestrong band when you were in like 2000 in school,
Right? They were yellow, weren't they?
You were a
I
loser.
remember
Yeah.
them.
And then in 2012, he got investigated by the FBI, and I think they threw the case out. But then he went on Oprah and like admitted, yeah, I was doping back in the day.
Well, that's
Sad.
I love that part of the doc. 'cause
He was the
that's-
Mick Ultra guy.
That's what I mean. Floyd Landis was the guy that got like suspended for doping from Team USA,
Mm-hmm.
and he turned around and was like, "You motherfuckers are all doping. So
Right.
I'm gonna out all of you."
Yeah.
And that's how it's like they kind of turned on the wrong guy.
Yeah, the FBI investigated Lance and the entire United States
Yeah.
Postal Service team, which is
Postal
who they were sponsored
Yeah.
by. Yeah,
Such a great, hilarious like part of all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just the United States Postal?
yeah,
That is the sponsor.
I think it's a great one.
yeah.
Yeah, Lance. Annie, what do you
You have
got?
to do 2 or just 1?
You just do one, and then
Yeah.
no, you do
Two.
2. I'm
Two.
sorry,
Do
baby. I
2.
apologize.
Okay, so
not that brave.
I'm easily gonna take Roman Polanski,
Okay.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
of him too. That was a good one.
and I think you'll love that he was canceled. He was kicked out of the what do you call it? He was kicked out of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences in the wake of the Me Too movement. I didn't know if you knew that because I know how much you hate him.
I do fucking hate him.
And,
he is one of the 2 teaspoons of cum that I mention
Yeah,
quite often
he's a
on here,
bad
along
dude.
with
I was gonna say he didn't fall far enough because of
He didn't fall
they were
far
giving
enough.
him like that standing ovation. We've talked about it in here.
Right.
Where I
Yes.
was just like I can't remember what movie it was, but he didn't. He made another movie and
Pianist?
gave
I
him
think
like a
it's the-
20-minute standing
Pianist.
ovation.
yeah.
Like people still fucked with him, which is disgusting.
Fuck him.
Yeah.
My
That's why I left him off too.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know,
But I-
not a
because
big
he didn't
fan.
get it hard enough.
Yeah.
But
He
it's
will
okay.
though.
But
He
but
will.
He did get exiled from the
He had to
country.
well,
so-
that's why he had to banish himself to another country.
Yeah.
Right. So it's
did.
like, what an interesting fall from grace.
I
But
support
he's
it.
living in like a villa.
Yeah,
But
Like, you know what I'm
I
saying?
think
He didn't
karma
ba-
is
he didn't
going to get
banish
him. I
himself
believe in that.
Like
the French get lonely.
like Abelard with no testicles going to a fucking monastery.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah.
So
All
my
right.
final one is Allison Mack. Do you know who Allison Mack is?
yeah, that was a good one too.
So she played Chloe on Smallville. That was a huge show.
Oh, okay.
Show.
Oh, I recently saw a picture of her, didn't I? She,
Definitely the most surprising
might have.
and ghastly fall from grace.
Is
Yeah.
this the cult?
She was accused and convicted for her role in recruiting sex slaves for Keith Rainier via its subgroup DOS, Dominus obsequious sorum. So she would bring. It was a secret society of all females, and they were forced to have sex with and be subservient to this guy Keith Rainier. She got sentenced to only 3 years, though. She served 2, and she served him with the women from like what's the guy from Shameless's wife who got caught
Oh yeah,
colleges.
William H. Macy's wife
What's her
who
name?
did
I
the
can't think. Felicity
admissions.
Huffman.
Felicity, yeah.
She spent 2 of her 3-year sentence in a very like low prison.
Yeah.
And I mean, sex trafficking is huge. So I think she had a huge career that
Did they
she
get
could
her to
have.
flip on something else or something?
She gave a bunch. She gave up a
okay.
bunch of shit on it, but
I like that. Drop
It was a-
dimes.
she dropped dimes. Yeah,
yeah.
We got
but I
some
mean,
good picks. We
it's
left
crazy.
Left some biggies out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You got one. No, so that's you. That's your card.
I did. Yeah, my 3
That's
were.
it, right?
Yeah. No, Vibsy, you got to do your last. You got to do your last. I got to do my last.
Okay, good. Then we got some big ones.
Oh, I got it down between 2, but I'm gonna take Diddy, P Diddy.
Oh, I was going to take him. I thought that was the biggest guy left on the board, maybe, but it still remains to be seen what happens.
Right,
to him. Yeah.
right. But
Although-
it went from him being all over MTV with making a band. He was like the mogul that everyone loved, and
Yeah.
the white parties. Everyone wanted to be invited to a white party and be in the
Yeah.
in the photos with him.
And now that guy is just dropping the dime on him, right? The guy that they got that sheriff from Lahaina.
Ooh,
What was it from the fires in Hawaii? He
I'm
locked all the people in.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure. I haven't been following the Diddy case too closely,
Allegedly.
except for I mean, I know obviously. The
I think I'm
trafficking.
at a point where I just want to find out what happened, and in this day and age, you just have to wait.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, everyone who rushed to try and read all the fucking JFK file stuff that came out, they don't know anything more than they did beforehand until we can see some of the redacted shit.
It is a little confusing, though.
Yeah.
I mean, here's a good example. Didn't you think the Penn State stuff moved fast?
Yeah.
we pretty much paid attention to that for
Yeah.
a year straight and walked that guy in jail.
Yes. Yeah,
Right?
I agree with you 100%.
So, for some reason, we don't seem to do that anymore. But
Yeah. Who do you got, John? Your
I
last
got
one.
arguably, I feel like still big pick, Epstein.
Yeah.
Epstein.
Epstein, yeah. That's big. Wait,
Only because his reputation.
which Epstein?
Well, both of them, but the big, what's his name? Fred Epstein?
Jeffrey?
Jeff Epstein. Sorry.
Jeff Epstein,
Yeah.
the financier?
Yeah.
What happened to him?
Yeah.
I can't believe no one
You
took
see
Michael
that skit?
Jackson.
Yes.
With that
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah.
Well,
I still got to go.
Oh, you still got to go. I
On
forgot.
Covenant?
We're going this way.
Yeah.
There we go.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. So there is allegedly I had met him. We talked about this on the show once.
You allegedly met him?
Somebody had said to me that I used to work with at J.P. Morgan when I was on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. There was a J.P. Morgan thing, and somebody said that he was there. And I hadn't met him because a bunch of people had met him. There are no pictures of me and Jeffrey Epstein at 40 Broad or whatever. And there's certainly
Right.
nobody
I've
that
seen it on
resembles
Getty.
me on the fucking flight logs. But he's one of them. But that's Conan O'Brien's. I don't know who that writer is, but that guy is hysterical.
Right.
And he was talking about one of my finance guys, Jeff. And they were like, Jeff who? Jeff Epstein. They're like, Jeffrey Epstein? The guy who did this? He's like, no, Jeff Epstein, the financier. I just thought it was very, very good if you haven't seen it.
The Norm Macdonald joke, we're going back to Cosby, where he's like, they say the worst part was the hypocrisy. I think the worst part was the rape.
Yeah. Rest in peace. I'm going to make this one a little bit personal.
Oh, no.
What? No, I think because if you look, there are a couple of big guys on the board. I'm going to leave them. But if you look at Bruno Mars, for some reason now, is about to
What?
He's a goddamn
The
triple
gambling?
threat.
But isn't he spinning down the toilet or no?
He's got like a
Circling the drain.
he's got like a residency in Vegas to pay off like mob bets that he's
Isn't
been
that it? Like, because
I
think that Bruno Mars, when he first came out, little bit of a guy, he was like homeless in Honolulu with some shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like one of his songs.
He had such fucking, he almost had like a universal appeal to him, right? He could do whatever he wants. One of his
like The
songs, one of his songs is in like every fucking wedding that you ever see now, right? It's like, I want to marry you or something.
Yeah.
I sing his songs with Bridget.
Well, you can't. The new ones you can't.
And that's the whole thing. Like, if you look
Right.
at, Fat, Juicy, and Wet, like, I don't
Yeah.
know why he did that. Should I use him as a pick or no?
No.
I would say no, but he has had a fault. Like apparently he's got addicted to drugs. He's doing this residency in Vegas because he's paying off debts.
I think I might be 6 months too early, But unless something happens with
His
this
train
dude,
has left the station, is what you're trying to say.
I could see him turning around and just being an absolute fucking fall from grace. Because they
find
were
him
calling him
another
the next
John Tunnel.
Prince. They were calling him the next this. They were calling him the next that.
He was in like 3 Super Bowl halftime shows. Like,
Extremely likable, and now he's with like Sexy Red. I don't even gangbang pussy so good. Make me throw up a set. Make it me my pet pretty pussy type of pussy. I can't sing that shit with my daughter anymore.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
right.
Or I could,
Yes.
but I'd be put in fucking prison.
Yeah.
All right, I won't take him. Pussy like weed,
That-
pussy
he-
like
put-
dope, pussy like cocaine. Put it up your nose. Slob on my clit, suck on my toes. 24 karat, pussy drip like gold. That's a far fucking
poet.
cry from.
I tell you what,
make
for
me
parents
feel
who let
like
your
I've been
kids
locked out of
listen to
fucking
him,
heaven.
and you don't question it now, yeah, I definitely could see.
he's someone to keep your eyes on. He's a future fall from grace.
I'm too
he's
early on.
spiraling. He's spiraling the drain right now.
Then it's Jackson. I have to take Michael Jackson.
Yes.
And even if you don't believe all the pedophile type stuff, and a lot of people haven't canceled him like they have R. Kelly, but we've talked about Michael Jackson endlessly here, and he was as big of a star as ever existed in the history of the world.
Yep.
Michael Jackson just was that guy. And now I don't know what his fucking legacy is. We can still, if Beat It comes on, I can sing it with the kids. I do a lot of singing apparently. But it's never going to be the same. And he died with fucking, needles in his arm, and he was dangling his baby from the thing. And he got, he went from being a small, handsome black kid to an older white lesbian. It was crazy what had happened to that guy from soup to nuts. And I think it's all a fall from grace, which ended with him dying too young.
I
Right?
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
But there's just that weird like gray area where they're still putting him on murals down.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He doesn't get turned off.
And yeah, his
Like,
music. Well,
yeah.
it's
So
so
he was
good.
never convicted.
Diddy
So
gets
it's
turned
like-
off. Like Diddy, I don't think
He's in
people
jail.
play Diddy stuff anymore.
I did karaoke a couple weeks ago, and I picked
you
R.
booked it.
Kelly Ignition remix.
Ignition.
People were booing.
I know, that's the whole thing, and it's a good one.
But if I did Beat It, people would be fucking or Thriller. They'd be doing
Yeah,
the
yeah,
fucking
yeah.
Thriller
Right,
up there.
yeah.
Scumbags.
So my board then is OJ, Jared, and Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Ugh, God. That's
Now let me ask:
despicable.
do you think that Macaulay Culkin is Paris's real father, biological father?
Ooh, I don't know.
Paris Jackson, do you think her biological father is really Macaulay Culkin? The similarities in appearances is insane.
It's like that Roan Farrow.
Oh, there's no way.
That one I'm
Frank
with you on.
Sinatra's
Yeah,
not that
yeah,
big
yeah,
dad,
yeah.
Right? I mean, when my kids walk in, you know who the dad is.
This is a tangent, but did you hear that Bill Burr one?
Uh-huh.
Billy Corgan.
That's
Talk
what
about-
large introduced me
spoke
to that
about
one.
this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're-
The Smashing
they're-
Pumpkins
they're-
guy.
By the way, this happens to me every time now. Whenever I hear something, whether it's historical or not, your
It's
voice is in
It comes in my
head.
voice.
Oh, that
Yeah.
is so
And
I
I'm
get
like,
that.
did we
I
talk
get that
about
on
this?
DMs.
And I
do.
think that we talked about it even if we didn't.
I get DMs where people like whenever I read something weird in history,
Yeah.
they read it in my voice.
Yep.
I'm
Like
cool with that.
you're listening to it
Yeah.
on the pod.
Yeah.
I just hear when
Welcome to my world, John.
we didn't start the fire. I just hear it in your singing voice.
Yeah.
Instead of
But,
saying on the graphic biggest falls from grace, can we just say dream blunt rotation?
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
shit.
That's a
yeah.
good one.
Yeah. If you
Make
want to
us look bad.
switch it,
Yeah,
yeah.
just like, oh,
All of a
fuck.
sudden, I'm fucking smoking with OJ and Jared Fogle.
Yeah.
All right. So
Your
that's
list was
it.
good, Vibs.
We all,
Yeah, yeah.
everyone
Yeah.
had good. I
Yeah.
enjoyed
Now
it.
my list stunk.
The only big one we missed is Tiger.
Tiger. Yeah, but. His story still
yes.
remains to be seen. He could he can all of a sudden do stuff for young kids
Oh, he's
going into his
arguably
old.
back too. And
Yeah.
like,
So
Tiger was on mine. Cuba Gooding Jr. He's not.
What
big enough,
happened to
I
him?
think.
What did
Oh,
he
he's
do?
got a bunch of like sexual assault things.
No.
Like, no, you can't
Really?
get cast in a movie now. Yeah.
Kevin
know
Spacey,
that.
Oscar Pistorius.
Blade
Yeah,
Runner.
yeah.
Everybody was
Right.
like, "This guy, what a good story.
Yep.
He's running despite not having legs," and then he shot his girlfriend through the bathroom door. Tanya Harding popped up on my.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
Was a good
Yeah,
one.
Sam
She came up-
Bankman-Fried.
Yeah. See,
Weinstein.
Tanya Hardy's a
Oh.
really good one though, because that's not all self-inflicted.
Right. Yeah.
I wanted to say this instead of Diddy. Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know. He's
As-
my mayor. I love him.
as-
Like we have such a soft spot from him post 9/11,
I-
what he did for the city, and then what he turned into a crazy old man.
Yeah,
like he was
sweating
on
out
so-
his tanner or whatever. That's the thing. In the Midwest, growing up, when 9/11 happened, I was like, Rudy Giuliani's going to be the next
He was
president of
the
the United
man,
States.
yeah.
This guy is presidential, and then he's just like sweating. He's doing stuff with Sophia with an F. He's like
yeah.
giving her lap dances and weird TikTok videos, and it's like, all right, well, this is pretty.
Politics.
Big
is
fall.
Like, it's like relief pitchers where like they go through years where they're just like awful, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
the worst
Everyone
things
has
happen,
it,
and
yeah.
then they come back
Exactly.
around.
Back. Oh,
There was a couple of presidential
coming back.
candidates too who had some stuff. All right, so that's the twisted history of falls from
I know
Grace.
Anthony Weiner. He was
Anthony
one of
Weiner.
Yeah.
And he
perfect
kept
last
trying to
name.
come back.
He just tried. He's recently must be
It's
on
like-
a New York Council.
He wants
member.
people to forget, and then he just crazy.
I think I got Ian coming in. All righty, guys. It was a pleasure talking to you guys. We'll see you guys next time on Twisted History.